Hello, Global Issues Summit participants. My name is Brianna Fetkovich, and I am the Director of Outreach for Street Grace. We are a nonprofit organization that utilizes evidence-based demand reduction principles to fight the commercial sexual exploitation of children. Fighting a massive injustice like human trafficking can't happen without collaborative community working together. This is a very complex issue, and we need to look at it through a holistic lens that addresses all elements of the human trafficking industry, everything from the supply to the demand and the person that connects the two. Human trafficking doesn't play favorites. All people groups are vulnerable, and we need organizations committed to providing services to women, men, children, those here domestically, and those who've come here from abroad. In our city, we have fantastic organizations who are providing aftercare and services to those that have already been exploited, and they need that. And we have organizations like Street Grace who aim to prevent exploitation from happening in the first place by protecting children. Each organization has a specific and strategic role to play, and together we will abolish modern-day slavery.
Hello everyone, I'm Milad Ziai, a proud volunteer with the American Red Cross. I'm so honored to be speaking with all of you here today. I think there's something magical with summits like these and how we're able to virtually meet people from all around the world to truly make better change. Here at the American Red Cross, we value such diversity and such inclusion. It really helps to make new ideas. Here at the Red Cross, we have youth-led language learning programs, regional diversity calls, and ongoing outreach to our community to truly make solutions that make a difference for the well-being of those who we support. I challenge all of you to go out of your way and speak with people you haven't spoken before and to make solutions together. It's these that will ensure a better tomorrow for not only us, but for the world. Thank you all for your time.
My name is Chastity Olainualade. I'm the coordinator of community and civic engagement in Fort Bend ISD. I define community as a group of people not only united in a common place, but united with a common purpose. For me, it is important for people to band together and form a collaborative community because I truly believe in the notion that we are better together. If we all come together for a defined purpose, with one unified goal and a degree of collective effort, that is the only way that we can truly see progress.
Hey, my name is Abe Haley. I'm the lead student pastor at Sugar Creek Baptist Church. We're located in 3 places: Missouri City, Sugar Land, and Richmond, Rosenberg. One of the things that I have the incredible opportunity of doing is building relationships with people. And the reason I build relationships with people is because I think that relationships have the potential to change things. But if you want to grow anything and scale anything, it has to be centered around something. In this case, I center all my relationships around Jesus because I believe that all relationships are designed to be Christ-centered. And when you build relationships around something, you create a community. And a community has the potential to really change things and really impact things. See, the thing is that where community really falls apart is when we don't choose to be collaborators. See, in every community, there's competition. And competition can be good and it can be healthy. But when competition happens at the expense of collaboration, what you actually end up doing is hurting a major effort with a large group of people. The more people working together in the same direction, you will have what I call a creative community that chooses to collaborate. I hope this helps, and I hope you guys are having a great time.
Hi, I'm Kim Ogg, Harris County District Attorney. We're the 3rd largest county in the country, and the job of DA is just as big. My role centers on protecting our community from criminals by prosecuting them in courts to ensure accountability and fairness. We also work with police to aid them in the investigation of serious crimes like murders or human trafficking, even fraud. We do this to build strong cases on behalf of crime victims who I have a passion for, especially those who are most vulnerable in our community, the disabled, the kids, and the elderly. You know, this job is also about more than just putting people in jail for hurting others. It's about helping people too. So we hold workshops annually to help people clean up their records so they can go back into the workforce after they've paid their debt and be productive members of our community. Thanks for your interest in bettering our local and global communities by attending this summit and learning what your elected leaders do. In terms of what you can do the first time you receive your jury summons, go and serve. And when you're eligible to vote, do that as well. Our democracy depends on it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Global Issues Summit Panel 2021. My name is Angela King, and I'm very excited to be with you today. I will be our panel moderator and I'm a senior at William B. Travis High School and have been a part of the GIS committee. I have been in the hospitality committee since my sophomore year, and this year I'm a co-chair for hospitality. And I'm very excited to bring an igniting conversation about community action. I myself have been a student in the Global Studies Academy throughout my entire high school career. The students and teachers I've gotten to know through GSA have shown me what it means to be both a member and leader for our community, as well as a global citizen. And I'm so grateful to be part of such an influential community that has developed the person I am today. It is a pleasure and honor to be with you all today to discuss the importance of building communities and inspire our young audience to be both active and representative members of their own communities. So thank you to everyone for investing your time in our event and purpose. So let's get to know our panelists. Today we have Barbara Bronstein, the founder and president of Second Servings of Houston.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to speak to your guests. I started Second Servings because I hated seeing good food go to waste because of last-minute no-shows at banquets. I learned that 30 to 40% of the available food supply in America goes to waste, according to the EPA. And what's worse is that 1 in 6 Houstonians is said to not have enough food to eat. Well, that was before COVID. It's even worse after COVID. But Second Servings is fighting food insecurity and food waste simultaneously as Houston's only prepared and perishable food rescue organization. And by keeping food from the landfill, we prevent the potent greenhouse gas emissions that decomposing food causes. Food waste is the largest component in the landfill at 21% and is a major contributor to global climate change. So with that, I will defer to the next speaker.
Thank you. And next we have Catherine Colios, who's the executive director for RAIN in the Sahel and Sahara.
Thank you, Angela, and to the rest of the committee for inviting me to speak today. Like Angela said, I'm the executive director of RAIN for the Sahel and Sahara, which is a US-based nonprofit organization that works in Niger, West Africa, with rural and nomadic communities. And we partner with those communities to enable greater resilience to deal with the changing day-to-day world. And we do that through access to education and opportunity. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like later. But to me, you know, we all have myriad interests and different populations and issues that we care about, but some of them get less attention than others. And Niger is one of those places. It's last 189 out of 189 countries on the UN Human Development Index. And even within Niger, we work with the populations that receive the least resources and the least support. So I'm really excited to work with RAIN because I know that I'm doing work that is meeting an unmet need. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next, we have Councilmember Jennifer Lane, who's also the Mayor Pro Tem for Sugar Land, Texas.
Hi there. I'm Jennifer Lane. I'm a Fort Bend County girl. I grew up in Rosenberg. I went to Lamar CISD, so I can relate to you guys growing up here in our great county. I'm an elected official. I was sworn in May of 2018. I am now the mayor pro tem and of the city that's 130,000 residents. And we are very highly respected across the state of Texas with our business processes. And I'm very proud to be able to serve the city in the capacity that I am. And I look forward to talking about community building with all of you. I think that's extremely important. That's how I got started. I started out on the PTO at one of my schools, and it just kind of grew from there. I got very much involved in my local government. So that's something that I really want to encourage all citizens to do. And I'm happy to be here with you guys and look forward to our discussion.
Thank you. And joining us again from last year's panel is Jen Schultes, who is a military veteran, founder of the Xena Project, and a strategist.
Hi. Thank you very much for the kind welcome and for having me. As was mentioned, my name is Jan, and I spent about 14 years in the Navy, serving around the world, including some time in Afghanistan with the Army. Absolutely thrilled to call Fort Bend County home, and have had a variety of careers since I left the military, including founding a nonprofit organization that serves fellow veterans, law enforcement, first responders, and families. We do a lot of work in the justice sector, in jails, courts, with families struggling to live near the poverty line, and similar type of work. On the commercial side, I've worked as a strategist in politics, animal welfare, biotechnology, and a lot of other really great stuff. So thrilled to be here, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you for all of you guys for being here and for your service to all the communities you serve. So now let's get into the questions. Briefly, share with us what led you to serve the community you do today and what role you have in it.
Who's going to start? I guess I will. Okay. So what inspired me to get involved? You know, in my life history, I've always noticed, I've always had a spike in my spirituality after an event, after a fall. And so my mother passed away about 10 years ago, and I got heavily involved in my church, and went to training and became a youth minister. I did that for about 5 years. Then I took a position on the PTO. My kids go to George Ranch in Lamar CISD, and just started asking questions about finances. And so that led me into getting to meet and know all of my elected officials in the county. And I feel that, you know, the involvement of meeting people, learning what's going on, questioning information, I think that's something that all of us should do. I think it's very important because if you look at the city of Sugar Land, you can tell when you drive through it, it's a noticeable difference. That comes with a lot of planning, people that have the vision, people that run government like a business. And it has created such a beautiful environment. We have such a, like you said, we're like a melting pot. And what you're doing with your group, with global studies, like you said, you have all of these things right at your fingertips, people right there in your own school to learn from. So that's a phenomenal thing. It's almost like Fort Bend County is almost like an experiment, like what we do here politically or how we run our local governments really can set the model for the United States of America. And that's really one of our goals, is to do that, to be the safest city in the United States of America, and to be a leader in creating our processes and how to run local government. So I'm very proud to be a part of that. And I encourage all young people to really get involved. And when you're working with your other classmates and working in clubs or whatever you're doing in school, it's important to get to know each other. So that's really where you start.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, there's so many things when it comes to the government, and so there are, you know, a lot of working parts, and you do have to keep in mind all the different communities you serve. And like you said, Sugar Land in its own is a community, and so thank you for giving that input. Does anyone else like to share, you know, what led you to serve the community, what inspired you to, you know, become a part of that leadership position that you currently have?
One of the things I noticed was all the food that goes to waste, and it happens all over. The grocery stores, everything has a date on it. But in actuality, only one item in the supermarket is federally mandated to carry a date. Most people don't know that. And so when they look at a package and it's near expiration, they think it's unsafe to eat. Well, it's not. You may find this amazing, but 3 months after the date on the package was when I was eating a yogurt, and I lived to tell. So we try and educate consumers about food waste so that there will be less of it, because our ultimate goal is to go out of business, meaning there would be no more need amongst our population for food. Among the underserved, and there would be no more food waste. So, you know, you have to recognize that in the interim, until we go out of business, there's a lot of food that needs rescuing, and a lot of people in need in Fort Bend County, as well as Harris County and Galveston County and the surrounding counties. So we're fortunate to have enough to eat, but there are many among our community members who don't. So that inspired me. Global climate change is another aspect of what we do. So we're basically killing 2 birds with 1 stone. We're feeding people and starving the landfill. So that's what inspired me to keep going. It's happening globally. I read about a food rescue organization in Thailand recently. So it is happening all over because food is going to waste and there are people in need. So while you hear a lot about the food shortage in the future, it's really more of an issue of food distribution and preventing food waste. There really is enough food for everyone, and there will be enough food for everyone if we learned how to distribute it properly and waste less.
So what I appreciated in the first 2 stories that's very similar to my own is that, you know, step 1 is you saw a need in the community. And that was exactly what happened with me. You know, I was a veteran when I got back from Afghanistan. I experienced certain things, saw certain things in people I cared about very much. And how do you say no to that, right? So I think that the number one encouragement that I would give to young people, especially school age, is just start noticing things, okay? You don't have to have a solution right now. You may not have a solution until much later in your life, but to use some very personal language here, once you notice it, God's going to put you in the right places with the right people, give you the right work experience. He's going to empower you and use you if you say yes to being willing to develop a solution for that need, okay? I got my offer of appointment to the Naval Academy on September 11th, 2001. I was a senior in high school. I wanted to go to art school. I had a full ride to art school, in fact. But that timing to me was something I couldn't ignore, so I said yes, and it changed everything. And I thank God every day that it did, because it opened my eyes to needs and gave me the tools to actually do something about them. So that's step 1, right? Notice stuff and commit to fixing it at some point, but that point doesn't have to be now. It could be decades in the making, which is exciting too.
Thank you for sharing that story, Jan. I'm actually a native New Yorker, and I was in New York on September 11th, so it's a really powerful story to hear about how that shaped your life. My work is a little bit different, but I think there are some definite through lines. And, you know, to Jan's point about sort of seeing where the need is, right, and where you can fit in. I think one of the things that I asked myself was, where can I do the most good? There are a lot of things that I care about, right? And I could do good work in all kinds of different places, but where will they miss me the most if I'm not there? And I love to travel, like I'm sure a lot of you in your school, and I love learning about different cultures and different people. And something that I found really powerful is that only 6% of philanthropy in the US goes to international causes. And some people are surprised in one way or the other to hear that. To me, what that sounds like is, you know, 94% for me and my community and 6% for everyone else. And so that's something that really speaks to me. And so, you know, the way that we give and that we resource things it's not always proportionate to the need. And so whether it's Niger or another country or another community in your hometown, I think looking and saying, you know, where is there a need that's not being met and how can I help to fill that gap is a really important question.
Thank you for sharing all your stories. So to bounce off of, you know, all your responses, we all are a part of the community, you know, whether it's big or small. But how can members reciprocate the service given to themselves onto others?
Well, I'll start. So the city provides a lot of services to our residents. You know, your water supply, you know, being conscientious of how much water you use when you brush your teeth, for example, or when you water your lawn. Trash, you know, just even if there's trash out in a playground or a field somewhere, do your part and help to pick the trash up, you know, things like that. And especially, you know, our law enforcement. It takes a lot of courage to be a law enforcement officer, to be on the front line serving the community. And especially with, you know, the events that have happened over the past year or so, it's been difficult, you know, to get people interested in wanting to go into the field. So it's very important, and we make it very clear that the mayor and the city council, we support our law enforcement 100%, so that we can have them, you know, look forward to coming to work and serving the community. So, you know, how do you reciprocate that? You tell a police officer, thank you for your service. Or, you know, you help keep an eye out on things, or you help try to resolve differences on your own and things like that. So always be mindful that, you know, it takes a lot of courage to really, what they're doing is they're putting their lives on the line for you. And that's the greatest thing that you can do for your fellow man. And so that's something to really remember when you see police officers, and just to support them in that manner. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. Could not agree more. And I'm very grateful for you. I would encourage people to remember that it's wonderful to have a large, far-reaching strategic objective, but the kind of change that you want to see in the world starts in your own family. And it starts with your next door neighbor, and it starts with, you know, it starts with the person that you meet in the line at a store, right? The people on this call, I think we're very fortunate, we're very privileged to be in a position to do something that's a little bit larger scope. But I guarantee you, if you let us monologue at you for a couple hours over coffee, you would find that our stories started with the people literally right before us, right? And there are people right before you. Don't overlook kindness and charity in your family, in your own house, on your own street, right? Everyone can make a difference there. Everyone can start there. And what I do find is that when people start to think a little bit bigger, sometimes they forget that it really does start in your household.
Let me take off on what Jan just said. Wasting less food in your home is a great way to participate in the community. 43% of all food waste occurs in the household. So people may not be aware that when you throw away food, you're throwing away all the resources that went into getting it on your plate. The water, the transportation, the energy, the materials, all are thrown away when you toss a hamburger from your plate. So if you can waste less, eat leftovers, and follow some of the tips that we provide for simple food waste prevention, we can save a lot of money. The US currently is throwing away $218 billion every year on wasted food. And I'm not talking about banana peels. Yes, that has to get wasted. But I'm talking about the half-eaten container of strawberries because it was stuffed in the back of the fridge, or the container of yogurt that is past the date on the package that gets thrown away, or that you don't keep your milk on the bottom shelf of your refrigerator because that's the coldest place. You keep it in the door and it spoils more quickly. So things like that, you know, just simple things that start in the household, as Jan said, that can make a difference in our community.
And I'd say building off of that, you know, looking at what you have and asking who doesn't have these same things, right? Or what you don't have and say who doesn't have these and why. And so I think, you know, something as simple as what Barbara was talking about, if you have extra food that you're not going to get a chance to go through it, well, maybe you can invite, not during COVID, right? But maybe you can invite someone over for dinner. And so really saying, how can I share what I have with the people who don't? And how can I work with other people? You know, maybe there's something I don't have and they don't have either. And how can we work together to make sure that that's something that more people have access to? So I think going back to what Jan said, that observation is the first step in figuring out, you know, you can't solve the problems if you can't see the problems.
Thank you. Thank you for all those insightful comments. Shifting on to, you know, how virtual activism impacts teens today. Nowadays, it seems easy to repost and share information that sheds light on important issues, and then view that as a form of community action. However, with that can come a feeling of peer pressure to do what others are doing and join the bandwagon, overlooking the core message of an issue. So what do you think could be ways to avoid this and allow people to understand the heart of an issue or the mission of a specific group?
I guess I'll speak from my own experience because I'm old and I'm on Facebook. So I see this a lot, and I'm in politics. So I do see a lot of things, and I have friends all across the political spectrum, and I see many different views shared on social media. And I always fact check when I share something, and I always try to also consider someone else's feelings before I share something, because you know, in the position that I hold, it's very important that when I do put something on social media that I've done my homework. During the COVID pandemic, when we were at the peak in July, I was sharing a lot of information that I was looking up with the state of Texas as far as the numbers for Fort Bend County. And we were trying to figure out a way to offer face-to-face for students in the school district. I know Fort Bend ISD went online, and LCISD offered face-to-face. And so I was, you know, working on that with some other elected officials. But as far as, you know, what's going on in the media, I had to really just kind of shut down my time watching, you know, the Fox and the CNN and all of that, and looking at all the posts coming across my page, because they have an agenda, and that is to sway your opinion. It's politics involved. I mean, that's the reality. But it's important to do your homework and to sit down. You can make a really big impact just in your own city or in your own county, and that is to go and actually meet face to face and talk to those people, or call them on the phone and try to get your answers there. So that's what I do on social media. I don't try to hop on anyone's bandwagon, you know, with whatever's, you know, going on for the day. I would suggest that you really, you know, try to do your homework and reach out to people in person.
I completely agree with doing your homework, with the caveat that just because you do your homework doesn't mean you can trust that other people will. And so I think, you know, it reminds me, I don't know if I'm dating myself if they still use this, but that like Spider-Man quote, right? With great power comes great responsibility. You know, sometimes we joke about armchair activism, right? Or just being on social media, but the truth is it is a platform, right? It's a platform to your community, to people who know you and trust you. And so when they see you post something, right? Maybe they don't do their homework. Maybe they see that you posted it and they trust you, and so they believe it. And so first I'd say never ever post something without reading it or watching the whole thing, because a lot of other people, they're going to read the title or watch the first 10 seconds and that's what they're going to take away from it. So make sure that what you're sharing is something that you can stand behind. And then also, if instead of just resharing, right, if you can figure out what is the main takeaway, right? What's the message I want people to take away, or the call to action, right? What do I want them to do? And highlight that, right? So if you're sharing an article, maybe pick out a quote that you like, right? Or if you're sharing a video and at the end there's something people can do, right? Put that comment in the post so that people understand why you're sharing it, right? So that you can really stand behind what you're saying. And I think that's important for all issues that you care about. And it's something that, you know, for me, working in a community where most people have never been and probably won't ever go. And so, right, I really think about it like I'm an ambassador, right, for the people and the issues that I care about. And if I'm not doing a good job to make sure that I'm talking about, you know, them and their questions and their issues in a way that they would be comfortable with, then I'm not being a good ambassador. So yes, do your homework, but also don't always expect that everyone else is going to do theirs. So sometimes you have to do their homework for them too.
My suggestion is never to post anything personal, that especially that you would never want your grandmother to see, or that down the road when you're applying for a job, you would never want your employer to see it. I can't stress enough that social media lives a long time. Anything that gets posted on the computer. So I make it a point never to post anything personal. It's all about work and food waste prevention. But social media can be a great vehicle for good. It is a way to educate people on causes that they can learn more about and take action on. So rather than personal opinions that could get very polarizing, I stress the positive role that people can play in terms of helping the environment, helping their community, and doing good overall.
So what I did, I was a public affairs officer in the Navy, and I've taught a lot of communication. I've drafted a lot of manuals, taught a lot of people, and am old enough that, right, we did all this in the years that social media was coming along. And now that's a lot of what I do in the corporate sector, is teach other people how to do that. So I would encourage you to develop a personal social media philosophy, right, that you can articulate, okay, and that matters to you. I will tell you that my own has undergone a lot of evolution. And again, I'll use just very personal language here, in keeping with how God wants to use me on this earth. I was very anti-social media when I founded the Xena Project. I wasn't on any of it, wouldn't use it. And then I very quickly learned that people that we were serving, many had types of injuries where they didn't remember names or faces. They weren't particularly comfortable talking to you on the phone. We gave them all of these communication options, and they consistently chose social media because the little face showed up and they knew who they were talking to. They would remember that it was us, right? That was humbling to learn that. And that started changing how I thought about social media. Now, I'm also a professional photographer, and I'm a graduate student. I'm finishing up my master's in apologetics at Houston Baptist University in May, and then rolling to a doctorate of ministry. So in terms of my purpose on this earth, there is use for social media, and I'm much more vocal on it than I used to be. But I can give you a list of a very few specific things that I use social media for. And absolutely every word I say on social media, I would stand in a crowded room with my grandmother and everyone else I care about, my daughter, Jennifer, politicians, and I would say the exact same thing in the exact same tone. If you would not say it in real life, the way that you typed it, don't hit enter. Okay? Social media is an engagement. So if you're going to use it, talk to people like a good human being, right? So for whatever that's worth, may the force be with you, and good luck out there.
Thank you. I think, all of, just doing your homework is a great place to start for teens when it comes to social media and learning more about other communities and their issues. So moving along, we're going to skip a couple questions because I want to ask you guys about philanthropy. So the productivity of community action can be greatly influenced by monetary donations in order to fuel necessary actions and activism, which can in turn affect the efficiency of a group. Do you believe that philanthropy should be in the hands of the government and its funds, or rely on private communities and agencies to take control of what is best for the welfare of others?
So I'm a very strong and vocal advocate of hyper-local charity and grassroots endeavors. And here's why. If you live in Rosenberg or Richmond or whatever, okay, to use some Fort Bend County examples, everybody knows which family on which street has what issues and what problems, right? Which also means that your hyper-local organizations are optimally primed with limited bureaucracy and the utmost privacy, right? We can protect that family's privacy. We can be agile and responsive. We can be tailored and highly individualized in meeting their needs, helping them actually with what they need. And then the variety of facets, the things that they need. I've worked for a lot of government agencies. I don't know a single one that has that level of hyper local knowledge, right? Which means that their solutions are not as targeted. They also come with much more paperwork, so they're slower and they're not sustainable long-term. So for that and about a million other reasons, I'm a very staunch advocate of hyper local solutions.
I would agree with that.
I absolutely agree with that. I think that there's a lesson to be learned when you actually participate in gathering items and giving them to someone. I recall a time where I was helping a family of a mother had 6 children, and she literally escaped from an abusive husband. And when I came to her with groceries and a box of diapers, and I took my boys with me, and because I wanted them to also go through their things to give, because she had several boys. And so there's a learning experience there. And if the government is in charge of that, we lose that, because then what happens is then they tax you, and they do a blanket tax, and they'll take that money, and then they will decide how that money's distributed. So how would I learn anything if I wasn't involved in that process? So I think, that's part of learning who we are as human beings, and having that experience of giving to others is a very valuable lesson. And I think that that's, better managed by local organizations, just like Jan said.
Well, the bureaucracy alone could really stymie your progress. So between the bureaucracy and the extra requirements that may not make a lot of sense. Some of the federal meal programs, for instance, may be great in the theory, but in execution, they're throwing away a lot of meals because they're not allowed to donate them, which doesn't make any sense if they're kept properly maintained for safety. So, there's a lot of red tape that bureaucracy would require. So I prefer to be funded by private foundations, individuals, and corporations.
I'm going to agree and disagree. I think, there are definitely aspects of what everyone has said that I agree with wholeheartedly, right? An individual family or an individual community best knows their own needs, right? So you really want the solutions to be coming from as close to the people experiencing the problem as possible, right? Whether it's the government or a nonprofit organization or, a philanthropic, foundation, what you don't want is someone who's not experiencing the problem being in charge of how it gets solved, because then, right, it doesn't involve the people who it impacts, right? And so the people who are experiencing an issue, whether they're the people who come up with the solutions or whether they're just part of the problem, part of the process rather, for figuring out the solution and implementing it, that's absolutely critical. I think one of the challenges, and I would push back, I don't think it's just a governmental challenge. I think, I've worked at a lot of different nonprofits, very, very big, national and multinational, and very, very small local nonprofits. There are plenty of nonprofits that run into the same issues as government, and sometimes they have different issues. And so I think that whether it's the government or private philanthropy, to me, a major question is about who's making the decisions and how our resources get spent and if it's equitable. Because I agree, it's very, very important to work in your own community and to lend a hand to your neighbor. But sometimes what that means, if we're only looking at local solutions, is that communities with a lot of resources get a lot of help, and communities with no resources get very little help. And that helps some people in some communities, but it also exacerbates inequities within our own communities, within our country, and globally. And I think that, to me, that's a major, major concern for what our world looks like going forward. And so I completely agree that implementing a solution needs to be really close to home. But there also needs to be collaboration across and between communities, because otherwise sometimes you have these, rich private philanthropies, and they make decisions for communities that they don't belong to. And I don't think that's a good thing either. So there needs to be a lot of communication, right? And a lot of collaboration for work like that to be sustainable and effective long-term. And a lot of nonprofits aren't sustainable. Most nonprofits shut down. So just something for us to think about.
I just wanted to piggyback on that too. And I'm a firm believer that, cities need to work together with counties and school districts and with your economic development as far as your strategic plan and bringing in businesses to provide jobs as well. So not only just to give someone a helping hand temporarily, but the education to teach them a trade of some sort, and jobs available, in the area, some transportation to get there. That's a master plan to help these areas exactly of what you are talking about. And we have these pockets in Fort Bend County. And I feel that more extensive collaboration should exist on addressing those areas, because we're all one family here. And we need to be aware of these areas that need help and come up with a multifaceted plan for that. So that's part of what I do in serving in a role as an elected official in Fort Bend County. Is I'm not only just to Sugar Land, but my heart is in Rosenberg, Fulshear, Katy, Stafford, Missouri City. We're all going to school together. We're all playing against each other in football and things like that, and getting to know each other. And it's important, like with our schools. When you go to different schools, they look different. We need to care about those things and care about how the children feel, and the retention of the teachers and so forth. So it's that's another aspect that where government can help more for a long-term solution rather than giving short-term supplies or needs, whatever they need. I think the long-term strategic plan is equally as important.
Thank you everyone for sharing. I think, the administration when it comes to organizations is something that, the general public probably doesn't know much about. So, bringing your insight and your point of views is very important, and will definitely open up our audience to understanding, the inner workings when it comes to serving communities through, legal organizations. So since we're almost out of time, in 30 seconds, what final piece of advice or motivation would you like to give to our audience watching on April 10th?
Okay, well, I'll go first. We live in we're in a very unique situation, like I had said before, and the children at Fort Bend County, you have the world at your fingertips right here. You have everything that you could learn about from people from all over the world. We have people that have been here for generations. We have people that move here from all over the world, from every state. Everybody wants to move to Texas. Everybody wants to move to Fort Bend County. And that sets you up for an excellent learning experience. And I hope that that you can recognize that. And when you meet people that are different from you, just sit down and listen. What I do, sometimes it takes 15 minutes, sometimes it's 2 hours, and just sit down and have a discussion to get to know somebody. We may be on opposite ends of an issue, but everybody that I meet, they want the same thing. They want to be happy. They want to have a safe environment. They want to be able to raise their families, be able to have a job. That's the common theme that I hear from across all religions, all ages of people that live here. And so I would like to, invite any listeners or anyone viewing this to come to a council meeting. See how your government works, and get to know your mayor and your elected officials, or go to a school board meeting and get to know those trustees that are making decisions for you, and to get involved. So I commend you for putting this together. You're a smart group of kids, and I look forward to seeing what comes out of this in the future.
I can chime in. I truly believe that one person can make a difference. In just 6 years, Second Servings has rescued over $50 million worth of food that helps nourish 175,000 needy Houstonians annually, and kept over 5 million pounds of food from the landfill. That was one person getting tired of seeing food wasted at banquets, but we now have a staff of 10, including part-time drivers, a communications person, a logistics person. But what Jan had said earlier is very true. So if you see a problem you want to fix, you need to do your homework and research the issue and make sure no one else is already addressing it, because I can assure you that it's much easier to join an established effort and expand or improve on it than it is to start from scratch. So that would be my piece of advice.
Just very quickly, Angela, I'd like to add to that and to build on something that Jan said at the beginning of the conversation. These are really big, complex issues, and they don't have simple solutions. And I think that can be really overwhelming. And sometimes when we're overwhelmed, we don't know where to start, and so we don't start. And so I'd say my number one piece of advice is, if there's something that you care about, don't wait until you know enough. Don't wait until you have more experience. Just start now, because you never know enough and you never have enough experience, right? And so find someone, like Barbara said, find someone who already knows more, right? And ask them how you can help, or start by researching and just do a little piece, right? And you chip away and you chip away and you learn more. And then as you learn more, you can do more. And so my number one piece of advice would just be not to let the big scary issues stop you from being part of the solution, because if all of us do a little bit, then the issues aren't so big anymore.
And I'd add really quickly too, never ever become too whatever, busy, important, successful, anything, fill in the blank, to do the easy stuff, to do the little stuff, to do the humble stuff. The most successful people in the world are the people who will roll up their sleeves, and do what needs to be done, whatever that is, right? Whether it's a little job or a big job, a public job or a private job. And especially in today's market where that characteristic can be very difficult to find. And when people find it, they will hire you, they will recruit you, they will lash onto you with everything they have because you bring value. And what you're doing is secondary. You as a human being bring value. So be that kind of human and you will have a fantastic impact on the world.
Thank you, everyone. So this officially concludes our Global Issues Summit panel. I want to thank again all our panelists for their insightful commentary, as well as our audience for their participation. So now I will hand it to Ashley and Sanjay, our GIS coordinators, to give the final closing remarks.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Poole. I am one of the Global Issue Summit coordinators. And it's so wonderful to get to see all of you. We've been talking about this for the past few months, and it's wonderful to see it come to life again as it did last year. This marks our second GIS panel and our second virtual Global Issue Summit. So all very exciting landmarks. But we do want to say once again, thank you for joining us today. As you know, our theme is building collaborative communities, and this is such an example of that theme. You all have exemplified that today in your words, and we know that our summit attendees are only going to take your words and continue them further. Hopefully they'll reach out to you and maybe you'll get a few interns out of this, but we're very excited for all of you. We're very excited that you gave your time in such a strong panel of women to commemorate the last day when we're filming this of International Women's Month. So we want to say thank you again to Angela and Michael. They're our seniors. We're going to miss them so much next year, but they have definitely been at the forefront of this effort. So thank you so much for that. And now I'll pass it on to Sanjay.
All right, so again, I have similar things to say just as Ashley said. So thank you very much for being here. I learned a lot about what you guys do as well as about communities itself. It's great to hear some perspectives from local community leaders. And I think it helps us students one day become more active in our local communities.
Hello, Global Issue Summit attendees. I hope that you have all enjoyed the presentations you were able to be enriched by today. It is now my distinct honor to recognize the class of 2021 seniors who have participated in GIS with excellence and will now move on to the next chapter of their education and advocacy. Please join me in congratulating Michael Fernandez, Savin Shaw, Alexia Hampson, Angela King, Ying Ying Cao, and Fei Fei Cao. Thank you so much to the seniors for working hard in order to uphold the Academy's name as well as make GIS an amazing success. You will be missed infinitely. Second, congratulations to the Global Issue Summit committee members. The Summit Planning Committee is comprised of 50 hardworking individuals who've been at work since August to bring this event to fruition. It has been my honor to lead each of you alongside Sanjay this year as we've adapted and grown as community advocates. A special thanks to the Global Studies Academy coordinator, teacher facilitator, and booster club for helping us achieve this goal. This is true mentorship in action. The Global Issue Summit and its influence is beyond that of an event, but a forum. Over the past 3 years, I've had the privilege to serve this organization, and we have seen students rise to advocacy, partner with our speakers, and influence the lives of countless individuals. Coinciding with the Global Studies Academy's mission, GIS strives to equip attendees to effectively solve the challenges society will face in the future while developing multifaceted global citizens. As stated by the great philosopher Aristotle, people do not naturally become morally excellent or practically wise. They become so, if at all, only as the result of a lifelong personal and community effort. Thus, the success of the community is dependent on the individual. As we learn and apply the wisdom of great philosophers of the past and our speakers here in the present, we celebrate diversity because we believe in the inherent value of the individual and the beauty of collaborative communities. We prize unity and we act accordingly so. We chose this topic not because it was easy, but because it must be discussed. Each attendee here today has the power to go beyond politics and preference and remember the inherent value of their fellow committee members. While we do not agree on all, we prize the sanctity of life with our actions and embody the idea of building collaborative communities. The idea of collaborative communities is built by each individual action, meaning your individual actions. We hope you'll join us in continuing to bring this vision to reality in our county, country, and world by partnering with our organization and truly turning awareness into action. I want to express the utmost gratitude to those who attended today, and we hope we can see you once again next year for our 10th GIS. With that being said, we would now like to introduce the Global Studies Academy Coordinator, Mrs. Janelle Tarr.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the GIS coordinators, committee members, and students, I would like to thank you all for participating in the annual Global Issues Summit. The student leaders have done an excellent job in creating this year's summit, and I hope everyone has enjoyed the wonderful presentations today. Here at the Academy, we are proud that our students recognize that globally minded education means learning in the classroom and applying those lessons through everyday actions. It is our sincere hope that today's event has inspired you to grow as leaders and as advocates for causes that are important to you. We are certain that the summit serves as a beacon of inspiration and renews our common commitment for a better world. This concludes our 2021 Virtual Global Issues Summit. Thank you.